getting every direction, all possible. So this is where I am now, and this is where my talk, this is what the material that my talk will embody. Yeah? How are you doing? Is the sound okay and all that?
Yeah.
Maybe I should do a sales pitch first.
Sure.
Here's the new book. It's called Using the Sky, and the cover photograph is by Anne Hamilton. And I know she's here this week and is having a lot of interaction in different ways in the community. Anyway, the book is for sale out in the lobby. This is Rutledge Books, and this came out this summer, and it's also Rutledge Books, and it's a DVD of it's an hour-long documentary of a project I did in Scotland, essentially, for 14 years. And it has a book of 3 essays about this project. It was called, you don't need to know what it's called. Anyway, the name of the DVD is called Turn Your Fucking Heads, which I will go into. Except they couldn't write fucking because it was very smart, because they were afraid a firewall would stop it in advertising it. So that's why I said this is expensive. This is less expensive. So, the way I'm going to frame this is, before I start to say, this work that I do now came out of my life here in Austin. I just want you to know that. This work came out of the experiments with so many different people here in Austin. So again, thank you. I wouldn't be where I am. I've been here since 76. It's a long time. I've been here now longer than I was in New York. Amazing to me. Okay, so continuity of discontinuity. I'm going to try and graph through language and a little bit of movement how I have been reorganizing my body. How I have been reorganizing, the ways in which I've been reorganizing myself in the name of dance. How I have been, yeah, okay, so the first step I just want to say is I put my work in the form of a question. I have to even go back further. I had to change my concept of my three-dimensional body and my personal experience as a dancer and as a performer. It felt like it wasn't enough. I'm not as I said earlier, I feel like I didn't really know anything much about anything. And so I had to trick myself out of that bad thought and turn my attention as a dancer into reconfiguring my three-dimensional body into a cellular body. And at that time, it was 5 million cells. And with these little 5 million intelligences. That's how, so I had to change the configuration of myself into a cellular body with 5 million bits of potential for intelligence in that body. So that was, that's sort of the first step. And so that these questions that I asked were questions that I was addressing not to Deborah Hay, but to the 5 million cells in my body. And I knew damn well I couldn't do it. I couldn't achieve it, I couldn't get it. People would say, how do you do it? I have no idea how you did it. But it just relieved me from the mental pressure of and fear of not knowing. Well, certainly one of these 5 million cells will have some feedback for me. And so that's how That's the way in which I began to infiltrate my body, to teach, to be my teacher. My whole body at once, my teacher. My whole body at once was the 5 million cells. That was the teacher I began to play at noticing so that I could get out of my own limitation of my thoughts about myself. Can you follow that? Mm-hmm. So then when I would ask a question, I would ask the question to the 5 million cells. And first of all, to ask a question without looking for an answer is a huge form of reorganization. To not want an answer, to not want to get it, to not want to hold on to it, to stay in a question was major and continues to be major. To not seek an answer from the question was, I think, the body of the reorganization, and it still goes on. I can give you an example. What if where I am is what I need, is not about what I need, but is about staying in the question, what if where I am is what I need? So it's not about, see, so it's those kind of questions, they're tricky questions, and they serve me in returning to noticing these 5 million. By the way, in 1976, it was 5 million cells. Right now, it's a zillion. That's what I never heard the word zillion before, but that's how many cells they're accounting for now in the human body. So that's how much work I'm doing. Then another way I began to think about this body in movement was, what if I don't call this my movement, but my music? What if this is my music? So I began to get, so what that does is it keeps me out of the pattern of thinking of this as, even thinking of this as dance. What if this is music? So again, a way of reorganizing myself, getting myself interested in playing the body and noticing the feedback from this teacher, which is exactly what this one, this is Roz Warby. She's just nice. Yeah. I want to read you a little something from the book, since this is like a book reading. This is My Whole Body at Once is My Teacher. It's something I call, it's a term I use in several of my pieces. I ask people, these poor innocent dancers, to do a sensual dance, and so this is what happens. Depending on whom you ask, of course, performing a sensual dance can be embarrassing, a dream come true, provoking, silly, inhibiting. I have often used the term because of the waves of automatic behavior those two words produce. A sensual dance. The term acts like a foil that makes the body interesting to notice when the language is applied. When I remember to flip the switch on the controls that situate me as Deborah, and replace her with the abundant, multifaceted potentiality coming from my cellular body, I can occasionally transcend my choreographed reaction to the words sensual dance. I have a trick to avoid my time adrift in my habitual patterning. What I do is I just get moving and call wherever I am a sensual dance, and then notice from my body what a sensual dance might possibly be. Just get moving and call it a sensual dance, and then learn from the body what it is, what it can be. So it's one of my tricks. I have lots of tricks. Another way I've been reorganizing my body is, well, it's actually through the questions, and the word that I use is immensity at work. There's a wonderful quote by in Poetics of Space by Bachelard. You know, I just want to thank Reno Pizzi, because he's turned me on to a lot of ways in philosophy that substantiate my work, and so thank you. And Bachelard, this quote from Reed was, I think you pointed that out to me. Immensity is within ourselves. It is attached to a sort of expansion of being that life curbs and caution arrests. And I'd like to read another quote. How are you doing? Here's a quote. About immensity at work. My body is capable of so much more than what it can do. For example,